We're back, and the topic for this segment is simply put, rocks. Rocks. May sound simple, but it's not. Our guest is Virgil Richards. Virgil, good to have you with us.
Sam, good to be back.
I call him the Rock Man, and that's how he's listed in my phone and my Rolodex or whatever at home.
That's good enough for me.
This man's forgotten more about minerals and rocks than anybody I know. You brought a lot with you, but first I want to plug the show coming up in July.
We do. It's Tulsa Rock and Mineral Society. We have our annual show coming up July 8th and 9th at the fairgrounds. It'll be at the Exchange Center building. I think admission is $6 for adults, and kids under a certain age are free. Scouts and military in uniform are get in free, and two-day pass will get you $10.
I brought this along because I wanted to share it with you. I bought this at the show, what was it, 2 years ago?
Yep.
Because it's one of those things that when you see it, any stone that comes from Mother Earth that catches your eye is talking to you, and you best move on it right then, which is exactly what I did. And I haven't regretted it for a moment. And this is nothing compared to some of the things, and I'm sorry, I'm teasing, compared to what's out there, what you'll see for sale, for show, and there are plenty of folk around to ask questions of if you so choose. How did you get into this?
Oh, I've always been a rock hound. Even when I was little, I was picking up rocks. I always did, and really got back into it around 2000 because my younger son showed interest, so we ended up doing quite a bit.
You said something before we came out here to do this that caught me off guard. I knew that we'd been underwater once. You said Oklahoma's been underwater how many times?
At least 3 times that I'm aware of, that I know of, that I can, bring to mind anyway.
Which explains a lot, I guess, of the formations in this part of the country.
It explains nearly all the formations in this part of the country.
Are all of the specimens you brought today found here?
Yes. Everything's on this table right now except for your amethyst there is local to Oklahoma.
Well, let's get started. Take us through the array. What have you got? Let's start on that far end.
What we got, the majority of what I've got sitting here comes from Pitcher, Oklahoma. And the Pitcher field was one of the richest mining fields in the country. From 1917 to 1947, the Pitcher field accounted for about $20 billion worth of lead and zinc, and provided more than 50% of the lead and zinc used in World War I. So, yeah, it was a pretty rich mining field, but it extends all the way to Joplin and surrounding areas. The Pitcher field was quite prolific, not just for the lead and zinc, but for specimens such as what we see here. These prismatic calcites that you see here all these were collected, or the majority of these were collected in the early 70s, and ended up in storage for 40 plus years. So
why?
They're just the collector didn't do anything with them. They collected them, put them in storage, and left them there. And I acquired them from a grandkid, after the collector passed away.
I'm going to interrupt you for a second because I want to make sure we get this on. You have a stone, really, that you split in half.
Yep.
That was essentially some sort of geode.
Well, when it's solid, it's a nodule. If it's got a hollow in the center of it, it's considered to be a geode. Geodes are hollow, nodules are solid.
Okay.
This one in particular, the majority of these that I find do have a void in the middle of them and contain everything from calcite, barite, hematite, and a couple of other minerals. Aragonite being another one, and that's what you see around the core of this. This one happens to have a solid hematite core.
Show how that fits together, Virgil.
And yeah, this was, get the right angle on it.
It'll fit. Well, when you throw a light on it.
Yeah, it will.
There you go.
Okay.
Now that's the way it looked when it
That's
came
the way
out
it
of the
looked
ground.
when I pulled it out of the ground, and basically used a soil pipe cutter to crack it in half, and it was a pretty good chore since it was solid and had a solid hematite core in it.
And under a light, what happens?
Under shortwave ultraviolet light, these white areas that you see around the core fluoresce yellow under shortwave ultraviolet light. So it can be pretty dramatic in the right kind of lighting. And these are always kind of exceptional from this locality where this one came from. Have always been fairly exceptional in quality.
Is this crystal that we're seeing over here?
This is calcite. Like I say, these are what we call prismatic. This one here is a prismatic shape. Calcite's the crystal form of it. This is a rare crystal formation right here called a butterfly twin. It's extremely rare. Not many are found. This is called a combination twin because this started out to be a crystal like these, like a scalenohedral crystal, or what we call dogtooth calcite. And at some point, it decided it wanted to change and be a rhombohedron, which is what you see with a lot of calcites, which is kind of an off-centered square.
The far corner up there is what?
Far corner. That's actually about 5 crystals on that little cluster right there. And if you look closely, what I say about these being in storage for 40 plus years, this still has the mine dust on it. And I didn't clean that for a reason. I want that to stay there. That's provenance right there. Still have the mine dust on it. It's an exceptional kind of a cluster. Sphalerite, this was the main ore zinc.
This is beautiful, absolutely
That
gorgeous.
one is an exceptional specimen, has some dolomite crystals on it. This is sphalerite on dolomite, also has chalcopyrite, which is a kind of a combination of pyrite and copper.
And this one?
And those two are calcite and chalcopyrite, but those two specimens right there, this one and that one, came from Martin Marietta Quarry, Davis, Oklahoma.
So you're telling me that everything we're seeing here and more can be found in the state of Oklahoma?
Yes, sir. Galena, this is the other ore that was principally mined in the Pitcher Field, was the galena and the zinc. So zinc ore, galena for lead, kind of an offshoot. This specimen right here is a brachiopod.
Pretty cool.
And this was found right outside of Miami in one of the mine dumps. Just happened to split just right so that where it split makes a perfect stand for it.
Give the folk at home kind of an idea of what they will find at the Rock and Mineral Show. I mean, they're going to see these things.
They're going to see, at our Rock and Mineral Show, you're going to see, we'll have quite a few displays. We have people put in displays because, my thought process is if we're going to call it a show, it needs to be a show. We need to show what's out there. So we have that in the form of displays. We also have, I think, 21 vendors that will be there selling rocks, minerals, everything from fossils to polished rocks to even a little bit of jewelry, some beading, some beads, stuff like that.
I have to tell you,
everything.
I have
Something
seen,
for
of
everybody.
course, the small tumblers that that you buy for young folk, where they can tumble stones, and they come out fairly nice. But I'd not seen the spheres polished, and you had several fellows doing that at the show that I attended.
Yes, we have working exhibits, which is where we basically showcase what can be done with the rocks that you find. Lapidary, in a lapidary sense, where you can cut and polish, make spheres, all kinds of things that can be done with them, from jewelry to display specimens like these.
It would seem to me this is the sort of, and I'll call it for lack of anything else, hobby or
Yes.
second interest that can get a man hooked, and he won't ever get out.
It's difficult. It's difficult. Since 2000, I've acquired so much rock that it's almost ridiculous.
Thought about a museum?
I'll tell you what, I've got some stuff that should be in a museum.
Really?
It really should. I do have some museum quality specimens at home. You know, I don't know what's going to happen to them down the road. Either my son will inherit them, or before he does, I'll do something with them or donate some of it. I've donated to museums on several occasions. The D.W. Carell Museum in Catoosa. I've donated to them I think I've donated something to the Elsing Museum at ORU as well, and Richard Dodrill Museum in Cushing. A couple of small collections I've donated there.
I always hope, you've been with us before, and I always hope when you're here, we have maybe been able to whet the appetite or curiosity of folks out there who might not be aware that this can be found underneath the surface of our state.
Well, I sure hope it does, Sam. You know, stuff like this, you're not going to find except in other collections, not from the picture field. There are a couple of working mines in Missouri where you can find similar specimens. The viburnum trend that runs through the central part of Missouri is quite prolific.
I'm sitting here shaking my head, I know what you're talking about. I have no concept. Virgil,
well,
thank
it's a lot of fun.
Thank you for taking time to come in. And again, let's plug the show. It's July
the 8th and 9th at the fairgrounds in the, well, I said, the whatever that one building is.
I think everybody knows.
I forget.
I meant to ask you, is it okay for folk to come in with a piece that they might not know what they've got?
Absolutely. If you got something that you don't know what it is, bring it in. We'll ID it.
You all ever been surprised by what folks bring in?
Yeah, I'd say so. So at times we have been surprised.
Like shark teeth?
At other times amused. Yeah. And
Virgil, thank you so much.
Well, Sam, I appreciate it, buddy.
Appreciate
It's good to be here again.
We're going to be knocking at your door come July, because you know how I am. I'll come over there with this drool running down my shirt.
Yeah.
That's all the time we have for this edition of Perspectives. Thank you for joining us, and we see you again next time.